You know, I really enjoy dispensing things. Whether it is Lego, adhesive tape, or 3D printer filament. That's why my latest invention is a 3D printable filament spool holder, which I call the CELTIC MASTERSPOOLER, named for its resemblance to a Celtic cross. As you might notice, it looks quite different from other spool holders out there, like these, or these. And that's because it is different. It avoids all the design flaws that those other spool holders suffer from. So, what makes an ideal spool holder? First, it should run as smooth as possible with minimal friction. Second, it must accommodate a maximum range of spool sizes. And third, it should be easy to use. Let's take a brief look at the existing spool holders and what problems they suffer from. This is the standard spool holder that comes with most printers, just a rod that goes through the spool. Unsurprisingly, it creates a lot of friction because there are no bearings. This here is the most popular replacement for it. 4 small rollers with ball bearings which are adjustable in width. It's better but still not ideal, because it can't accommodate small spools and there is still the friction between the spool and the 4 rollers. And each roller has to rotate faster than the spool itself, which creates even more friction. Another popular design are these. Basically the vanilla spool holder, but with ball bearings. This design as well creates more friction than necessary. Because firstly, the bearings still have to spin faster than the spool itself. And secondly, there are these side constraints, which always have contact with the spool and slow it down. Finally, we have the conical spool holder, which is, in my opinion, the best design by now. Here the bearings are in the center of the spool. They spin with the same speed as the spool itself and therefore create the least friction. The side constraints, which are the cones, are also not a problem because they spin along with the spool and create no friction. The problems I see with this design are firstly the usability. You have to screw and unscrew this cone for each spool change. And secondly, it's a lack of versatility, which means a limited spool size compatibility. It can't take spools with an inner diameter bigger than the cones. And it can't take a spool like this, where the inner diameter is larger than the spool's width. Which brings us to my design, the CELTIC MASTERSPOOLER, which has none of these problems. It runs as smoothly as the conical spool holder, since its bearings are in the rotation center of the spool. But unlike the conical spool holder, it offers unlimited compatibility. It virtually holds any spool size on the market, even the really big ones. It's also easier to use. You don't have to screw on a cone or something, just stick on a new spool and gravity keeps it in place. So how does it work? I took my inspiration from the chuck mechanism of a drill, which is also a system that adapts to different diameters. The axle inside the spool consists of 4 segments, which can spread out to 4 directions to always make sure that the bearings are always in the center of the spool, which creates the least friction. These axle segments sit on threaded rods, and in the middle of the master spooler is a differential gear that makes sure that the axle segments spread out evenly. Just turn one of these little knobs, and the CELTIC master spooler adjusts to any inner spool diameter between 4 and 14 centimeters. This outer ring here prevents filament getting entangled in the cross. Its curious wave structure is supposed to make it rigid. Now a few words about the assembly. All parts can be printed in PLA without support on budget FDM printers. Of course, you also need a bolt, 2 ball bearings and some superglue. Building instructions are included in the PDF, but here comes a short version. All the center components slide onto these little plastic bolts and are in the end secured with C-rings. Which can be a bit tricky is installing these threaded rods. Do you see these little arrow markers on the gear wheels? They all need to point up while they're getting inserted into the main body. The easiest way to do this is to align them with the arrows up on the table first, place the cover on them, and then inserting them all together into the cross section. Another small challenge is to getting these sliders to slip into their rails all at the same time. It takes a bit of fiddling and patience, but it works. Next, these spool holding elements, I call them quarter axles, are getting inserted into the sliders. Depending on your print quality, you might need to secure them with a little bit of glue. And it is of course the high quality or precise print which might need the glue because it has clearance. Finally, the knobs get screwed on, and they definitely need a drop of glue. Attach the whole thing to the table stand or the wall mount, and voila! You now own the CELTIC MASTERSPOOLER, the most versatile filament spool holder out there. And who says it can only be used for filament spools? Why not use it like this, or even this? Instructions and 3D printer files are available on the website cults3d.com, where you can buy it or download it for free. The choice is yours.